All right, let me know when guys can hear us. I always get amused when people say, why haven't they started yet when their clock's clearly a minute ahead. No responses yet. Potatoes Are Life says hi. Let us know if you can hear us well. How's this look? All right, looks fine. Okay. Here we go. So, yeah, I don't know that we have that many real loose ends. I guess I have one decent sized update, but I think it's just going to be more and more as we go on. The loose ends is about the Q&A portion. But of course, if you're a patron, you can submit free questions that we'll prepare for ahead of time. And, well, before we get into them, how about you say hi, Dan?
Hi, everybody.
You might want to speak up, Dan.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, you don't have a... Dan is looking fine as ever. I'd say your hair looks above average today, actually.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
As you saw in the thumbnail, I had a gas mask on, my Russian gas mask from my go bag, and some Purell I was shooting at Dan. And that's because he has fled to the Midwest from the Northeast to escape the pandemic. Anyways.
Mostly I didn't want to go insane.
By yourself there?
By myself with like 2 to 6 weeks off from work likely, so.
Yeah, most of our families, of course, in the Midwest, so it just made sense to come home. They say we look almost alike. We don't think we look... Okay, we look kind of similar, I guess, now that I look at a camera view of us. All right, well, let's get to the reader mail. The first question comes in from Sam Williams. What games are you guys playing through the quarantine? I've been playing through the Doom series from front to back, and I am at 2016's Doom. Well, you're kind of off from work. You are up in the guest room. What have you been playing?
Mostly Mountain Blade Warband. I started Neo.
Oh, is Neo good?
Yeah, Neo's pretty good so far. Bosses are... first boss is annoyingly hard, at least. I was listening to Sacred Symbols, Call Moriarty, talking about how annoyingly hard the first boss is, and I do have to agree with him. It sucks.
I mean, it's obvious you can beat him, though, right? It's not like the first boss in Dark Souls or Demon Souls.
No, I beat him, but...
Okay. Well, I haven't been playing that many games. I mean, we've been playing Warband. Bannerlord supposedly actually comes out on Monday.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited.
They just announced it today. Bannerlord will be the game we've anticipated for 2 years, and I will not believe it exists until I can actually play it, because I just don't believe it. It's like Killzone 2. I won't believe it's out until they stop delaying it.
And they've seemingly been delaying it, like, never officially, but just kind of low-key delaying it for like a year now, it seems. So
I think it is coming out Monday, though.
Yeah, they said it's coming out Monday.
It's early access, of course, but whatever. If it's good, we'll play it. And I don't know. We've been playing Borderlands. We plan on playing the new Borderlands Lovecraftian DLC this weekend. So that is what we will be playing. Otherwise, I don't know. I still need to play Titanfall 2 and Half-Life 1 again. Yeah. Anyways, let us... And save your tip questions for the live chat portion. We're going through Patreon messages. I will get to the person who tipped us, though. So Corey Castile writes in, and he says, what are your opinions on DRM and software, specifically video games, of course, and the preservation of older and abandoned video games that are hard to find physical copies of? Well, I'll speak first on this one. I absolutely 100% do not support DRM. I often refuse to buy games if they have DRM. That's why I refuse to pay any money on the Epic Games Store. The fact of the matter is, on Steam, if I buy it, I can still download it, and it works even if I'm offline. I can play my Steam games while I'm on an airplane. I can play them while I'm in a hotel room and the internet's not good. And I still buy disc-based games for my PS4 when I can, because I just don't get the point of not owning your game. And maybe I'm old school in that regard, but I hate DRM. Well, I think DRM's horrible, and I wish no one would ever support it.
And I think like the Epic Game Store's DRM, if I'm remembering correctly, like was so encumbering that like when people figured out how to deactivate it, they were getting like
depending on your CPU, I think
noticeably
Assassin's
better.
Creed or whatever. Could no, not Assassin's Creed. It was some other recent game would run. It was Borderlands. It was Borderlands 3.
Yeah.
Would get like a 20% performance boost for the pirated version, and that's been true of past Assassin's Creed games too.
Yeah, and that's why we got Borderlands on the PS4. Plus, it's I don't know, easy to play on the PS4 when PC
because
is
I
annoying
knew
sometimes.
I knew any game that launches on the Epic Game Store when it first comes out is going to be a shit show. So I don't buy games on the Epic Game Store. So I mean, our opinion is we hate DRM. We wish people wouldn't support it. We believe people should still be allowed to own their own games, and we don't get why that's a hard concept for some people. But we understand eventually we might be screwed over and have no choice, but we will fight until that day. Clean Sweep writes him, now that AMD is committed to not using blower coolers on their reference gaming cards, what direction do you think the partner model cards will go to differentiate themselves? Cheaper or stronger?
I have no clue. Honestly, I don't have a huge issue with the blower coolers to begin with, so I don't know.
Yeah, I gotta say that it depends, right? I had 290Xs in my mining rigs, and the 290X is loud. 290X is really loud. So there's no doubt that cooler, it was louder than the 7970. It felt cheaper. They definitely cheaped out on the cooler with the 290X launch. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
But almost every other blower card, in fact, I just got a GTX 580. That's right. That's the Fermi 580, 3 gigabyte that I plan to benchmark against some other legacy cards and see which one aged the worst over a decade. So this thing's quiet, right?
I mean, yeah, we haven't done anything with it yet, though, but it's quiet.
It's quiet at least while it's idling.
Yeah.
We have a benchmarking rig now, too. And my Vega cards, I never had any problems with the coolers, guys. I mean, look, there's no way around it. If you overclock it, it's going to get loud as hell, but maybe you just don't do that. I don't know. Having said that, I don't know why AMD still uses blower coolers. Like, it makes no sense. They're not as good, even if perhaps they last longer, because like my Vega cards have had 0 fans die. They're Delta fans, which is what they use in servers. So I honestly don't. I'm not defending blower coolers. It's just keep in mind, me and Dan have never had a problem with good blower coolers, and there are good blower coolers.
I've also only had a couple cards with blower coolers, so I guess for me personally, like selection, there might just be a bias. I mean, I've had good 1 or 2 good blower cards, and that's about it.
You know, I have a lot of blower experience with my mining rigs and the laundry rooms that you can hear across the house. But yeah, I mean, it's just gonna. I think you're already seeing this. I think you're seeing they either get cheaper, and you saw that around Vega where MSI had that cheaper blower cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you're gonna see blower coolers from AIBs be cheaper, which you see with the RTX 2080s and those blower ones that aren't as good. And then you're gonna see gigantic ones that cool it better. I don't think anything's really gonna change. It's just now the stock card will perform better. Right.
Yeah, I guess that's probably true.
I've never seen it as blower. I don't think AMD was ever doing the blower cooler thing to allow AIBs to have an option. I think they were just doing it because either they were cheaping out or supposedly they had some deal with OEMs where the blower had to be able to shoot the heat out the back of a PC. But I don't know actually how much validity that actually doesn't. That's never made that much sense to me. Anyways, John Wright writes in and he says, I'm wondering if ray tracing will for sure be on the new RDNA 2 cards. Yes. And hey, there's Cortex. Look at that guy.
Hi, Cortex.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Cortex will back me up on this, that RDNA 2 has ray tracing. It does. It remains to be seen how good it is, but I do believe the desktop RDNA 2 cards will ray trace as well as the Turing cards per compute unit. Outside of that, I have no idea. We don't know what Ampere is capable of, and it's a guess until we see actual benchmarks. Yeah, Cortex is right. I'm definitely a secret. This is a long con I'm doing to shill for NVIDIA.
It's been a long game, but you're finally going to reveal yourself as an NVIDIA shill next week, I believe.
I'm slowly going to unveil. I've had a Titan Volta the whole time, and that I'm slowly preparing to turn everyone against AMD.
That Radeon 7 is just a life-size cardboard cutout.
That's right. There's no proof I actually have one, unless you guys have seen it. Nathaniel Wong writes in and he says, your thoughts on AMD addressing the hacking of some of its GPU Verilog source code and how it could affect their future outlook. Well, it's funny that Cortex is here. I know Cortex is going to handle this one in an upcoming video pretty in depth, and I've just decided to not do that. I decided this is one of those stories I'm not going to comment on much, except that it sounds pretty bad. Is it the end of the world for AMD? Of course not, and it's not a worst case scenario either. But my understanding is that, it's much worse than AMD wants you to think it is.
Yeah,
this isn't ideal for them.
I haven't read too much about it. I saw that it seems like they're trying to downplay how bad it is, so I don't know how bad it's actually going to be, but
yeah, and I guess I don't know that we have much else to say besides that. We'll cover it on Broken Silicon. Okay, so PS5 starts at the 11-minute mark. Okay, another reader mail. So Sage of Geeks writes in and he says, I will bet you, this is one of the wagers. Again, if you support us on Patreon, you're allowed to bet us and see if we are wrong in the future. He says, I will bet you $50 the Xbox Series X will outperform the PS5 in most third-party games. And I'm going to say this. I'm inclined to take this bet eventually, but we just don't know enough about the consoles yet to make any bet.
We'll see when they actually do.
It doesn't matter what the specs of the PS5 are unless it had 20 teraflops or something stupid. They're close enough where I wouldn't take any bet. And I guess on that note, all I would say is, look, no one here should be mortgaging their house to place a bet on the Xbox outperforming the PlayStation. I think there's a real chance some people could look very silly.
We'll see when they actually do both consoles do real reveals, because both of them have just revealed their specs. And I don't know, it seems like I bet in some devs it will perform better in third parties. Some games will probably perform better on PS5. Some will perform better on the Series X. We'll see.
Yeah,
especially early on, I bet there will be more variants. But
I don't know. Early on, I almost expect them to perform exactly the same, except one doesn't have load screens. I honestly I don't think people understand how small the difference is even on paper. Forget the secret sauce arguments, right? Think about the difference between previous gen consoles and how a lot of games perform somewhat similar.
Even on massively different.
Yeah, even on the Xbox One base to the PS4. The PS4 had triple the bandwidth almost, and 50% more compute, double the ROPs, and I think quadruple the asynchronous compute units. And yet there were some games where they performed pretty close. And then if you look at the Xbox One X versus PS4 Pro, their CPUs were basically a wash, although the Xbox is probably 10% stronger. And then the PlayStation had a lot more bandwidth, though. But in terms of compute, the PlayStation 4 Pro actually had double the ROPs compared to the Xbox One X and FP16. So, but the big deal with the Xbox One X was that bandwidth and the RAM it had. It could just run higher resolutions than the PS4 Pro. There's no argument there. So,
yeah.
And even then, there were third-party games that performed the same. So the way I would put it is, even on paper, the PlayStation 5 is a fourth of the difference that was the difference between those examples I gave you. And if there were games that performed the same between those, I don't know how you can expect any huge difference. That's really the thing I would just hammer right now is I really think it's hilarious the amount of people acting like there's some huge difference. Even if there is no secret sauce, there is almost no difference.
Functionally, even if the napkin math that everyone is doing is true, we'll see. It would be a little bit better performance on the Xbox Series X, maybe, but.
We'll see. Again, all I'm gonna say is I wonder if Cortex will comment on what he bet he would make here, because I know he's working on something that will comment on the PlayStation 5. He'll probably want to save everything he has to say for his video coming out soon. But I'm gonna say it one more time before we move on. I really, really think people are underestimating what the rendering advantage could be if the PlayStation 5 actually is capable of using its hard drive as RAM and streaming assets in directly. Because I really, oh, so Cortex's video comes out in 2 hours. Okay. But yeah, I really think you guys might not get what's going on here. And also the Tempest audio engine, I've been told recently, and this is after I made the PlayStation 5 video. I've been told that Tempest audio engine is the backup processor that can be used for other things if third-party devs don't want to use it for audio.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, we'll see. It's just a matter of when we actually get.
Actually, I've been told that
gameplay.
Tempest does some pretty insane things, but I honestly don't know that if I believe them. It's insane what they say it's capable of.
I would wait for Sony to talk about that.
Well, that's the point too. Is it's like every dev, every person I've been able to reach out to says that people fundamentally don't understand what's going on with the PlayStation 5. Like it has an entirely next gen way of doing things, but until Sony proves it, it's like, okay, prove it.
Yeah, and hopefully they will prove it in a couple months. I don't know why it's taking them so long to do any type of like game reveal or PS5.
I don't know, and that's what makes you go. It's up to them to prove it. It's not up to me to share whatever. Anyways, though, I think we covered that enough. I don't really want to say much. I stand by my PlayStation video, and if you want to make that bet in a few months, I might take it. And I would not be as confident as some of you guys are. The difference is there's some things going on, guys. All right. Blow Ye Rins writes him, and he says, now that we have monster APUs in the PS5 and Xbox, do you think it would make sense to bring back the integrated graphics on the motherboard where we could have 40 CUs and only need to upgrade CPU over time? Or will we see desktop APUs comparable to consoles? I think there's 2 questions there. Having an integrated APU and a motherboard, I like the goodbye, Cortex. Thank you for showing up. But hey, I will comment on this. I do see someone calling me a Sony fanboy. So if I'm right, though, will you come back here and say you were an Xbox fanboy? Because I'm not a fanboy. I don't own stock in any of these companies. There's no Sony logos hidden in the background like there are in the back of Digital Foundry for NVIDIA ray tracing.
Oh yeah, that's super.
So say whatever you want about calling me a fanboy, but I did some pretty exhaustive research. I think I've done twice as many Xbox videos as I've done PlayStation videos too. So how you get the idea that I'm a fanboy is, well, I don't know. But I feel like I have to comment on that. Anyways, back to Blue Ewin's questions. I don't know. I think we could see an IO die have an integrated APU. I personally think that's a cool idea. It's probably just a pipe dream. Like again, like if you think of, so it just came out that 5 nanometer can get 86% more density over 7 nanometer. I mean, once we start getting to the point where, and by the way, just so you guys know, a quad core without the L3 cache, a Zen 2 quad core without the L3 cache, the Zen 2 quad core takes up, I believe it was like 16 millimeters squared. So think of it this way. If you're on 7 nanometer without the L3 cache, a quad core Zen 2 takes up 16 millimeters squared. On 5 nanometer, it could be 10 millimeters squared. At that point, you're not adding a whole lot to a die to add a quad core. And what if you just added a dual core? 5? Like, yeah, each compute unit typically takes up 5 to 10 millimeters squared as well. So you're talking about adding almost no amount of space to add an APU to an IO die. Do I think they could start doing that on motherboards too? I mean, I do. I don't know why Asus couldn't add that so you could boot up the motherboard without anything else. I don't know. It'd be cool. I don't think they'll be putting a 40 CU one on a motherboard though. And do I think monster APUs are coming to desktop? Yeah, I do. And I know that Cezanne is on track. This is, I think, some kind of super surface dockable tablet device that has 24 compute units in the full die and 8 cores. And that's going to get you to almost Xbox One X performance in an APU and a laptop. It should be a die that's maybe slightly bigger than Picasso. So they could bring that. They could bring that to desktop. And if they do, I mean, there you go. There's your probably $250 mid-range gaming APU.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a matter of if AMD wants to, because I don't even know what you would price it at. I mean, what's it competing with? It may throw a wrench into their lineup. Then again, they want to be disruptive, so I don't know.
Disrupted to their own lineup.
Well, I mean, they're selling the 1600 for $80.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
could argue that's just, but they want to take market share, and they know most people that game are just going to buy Zen 2 anyways. So I don't know. But let us move on. Okay. All right. This is a good question. Faceplants writes in, Sony has said that they will allow storage expansion with retail PCIe 4.0 times 4 NVMEs, which I do believe is how it works. There's just an extra NVMe drive bay in the PS5. So that's nice. I like that you don't have to actually replace a drive.
Yeah,
if that's true. I'm still not 100%. Yeah, but I thought that's what I was told.
The phrasing was a bit confusing to me, so I'm not 100% sure if it's replaceable or if it's expandable. Because having an expandable, like additional,
so you don't need to reinstall the PlayStation OS.
That would be really nice to just be able to get like another 2 terabytes, like I don't know, a year or two after I get the PS5.
Yeah, but anyways, moving on. His question is, the SSD must be able to perform at least as fast as the included drive. Yes. And I want to touch on that too, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions going on. The drive they have is built for the Kraken chip that can boost to 22 gigabytes per second. So I believe the PlayStation 5 can technically accept a drive. I guess I don't know what the top is. I would guess at least 10 gigabytes per second. And in short bursts, it could probably benefit up to 22 gigabytes per second if I don't think we'll ever see that in its lifetime.
And the PS5's like,
I'm saying expandable M.2 drives that fast. I don't even know if the interface lets you go that fast.
If we did, I don't think
the interface lets you go that fast.
Yeah, if we did, I don't think it would give any benefit to the PS5.
Yeah, it'd be like putting an SSD in your, there'd probably be a small one or something.
Yeah.
But anyways, though, what I want to say is the reason they say 7 gigabytes per second plus is because compressed effective bandwidth is not as good as uncompressed. It never can be. And so what they're saying is if you get over 7 gigabytes per second uncompressed, that should be roughly as good as what we have. So I always, whatever Xbox and Sony show is the compressed versus uncompressed bandwidth, the real performance effective bandwidth is like in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Because there's things you can't compress. And there always will be. It's just theoretically, if you could compress everything, but you never can, it would be double the bandwidth. And he says, blah, 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 blah. Do you think the PlayStation 5 SSD will lead to further standardizations in retail SSDs, heat sink size, and all of that? Because they said they had to basically guess how much space to leave inside the console to upgrade it. And I don't know. I think there will be a new standard around it. I don't know if it'll become standard, though.
I don't know if it will. I don't feel like it would completely just make a new standard for heat sinks. I think you might just in a year or two from now just start seeing like PS5 certified NVMe SSDs.
And another thing, and I love this second part of his question, as he says, as SSDs approach tens of gigabytes per second, which they will keep getting faster. We know Samsung's already got a 7 gigabyte per second drive coming out. I guarantee within a couple of years we get to 10, which I think might saturate what you're able. No, I think 7 almost saturates it actually.
The
PCI 4.0 times 4. Because I think NVMe Gen 3 drives only go to 3.5. So wouldn't that mean 7 for Gen 4?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess. But PCI 5.0 comes out with Alder Lake next year, and so we have PCIe 5.0 is coming too. So I would say within a couple of years we'll have 15 gigabyte per second drives. And he says, as SSDs approach tens of gigabytes per second, that is DDR. That is DDR bandwidth right there, guys. That is maybe not DDR4, but it's getting there to like slower RAM bandwidths. Might we see a new storage tier supported at the platform OS level? And I like this question because I think it's kind of like 64 cores being supported on Windows. Once we start getting drives this fast, it would not surprise me if Windows has to do a massive update to effectively, maybe even work, but effectively utilize it. Because when they first made the 64-core Epic and Threadripper, they had to make sure the OS worked because of how many threads there were.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, that's true. I mean,
And remember, a maxed out Gen 4 drive is over 100 times faster than a hard drive.
and also with like the current speeds we have for SSDs, I doubt Windows can fully utilize those at this
That's a
point.
good point. I bet they already are starting to get saturated, at least when you're using a single program on the drive.
Software is always lags behind the hardware, it seems. So,
but again, that's what's exciting about these consoles is it's going to force PC and game developers to really move forward with the latest and greatest.
Yeah, hopefully it will force on the PC end to get better too, which
yes.
I bet it will. But
okay, and then let's see. So I'm almost to the Q&A, the live Q&A, which I know we already had someone tip us. So again, there's a tip. Give us a minute before you tip us, guys, because we're not paying attention to the live chat really yet. But anyways, the only summarizing theme I have here is just to announce how insanely good this month has been for the channel. I think it's getting close to 30,000 subscribers. The next pizza party where we celebrate subscriber counts is going to be, what is it, Dan? It's 32 something, 32, whatever 32 gigabytes of RAM is. 1024. You know, do the math.
Fine.
Do the math, nerd. You're a geneticist.
I'm not. What?
Times 32.
32,768.
The next celebration is 32,768 subscribers. And I think we'll get there next month pretty comfortably at this rate.
I think you're at like 28.5 or something. Last time
0.9 already.
0.9
subscribers again. Yeah, it's been insane how fast this has been growing. You know, getting Mike Brazzoni, John Petty on the podcast. This is opening up doors, by the way, for people I'm allowed to talk to. I might finally be officially switching careers to be more of an analyst for some firms instead of a lame automotive account manager.
Yeah,
cars suck.
Yeah, cars.
Nothing interesting about cars. It's so funny to think that I started as a mechanical engineer and now I might become a tech analyst. But you know, and it's because you guys support us, and so I just want to highlight this is incredible, and that, you know, I don't know, you know, it really is the Patreon making this keep going. I know that our audio engineer Gerard in Spain, he's going through some rough times now because the coronavirus has hit Spain pretty hard. So we're gonna start trying to give him some kind of wage now, and I just want to make sure you guys know that Dan does get paid by you guys. It's not just me. And we do have a benchmarking rig. Actually, I can show them, can I?
Well,
let's do this.
I guess it's not super cool, but
here you guys go. There's a benchmarking rig right over here.
I built it today.
Yeah, Dan helped me build it. Well, because Dan's not working because he's a lazy millennial. So I was like, well, I'm working. Build this computer, slave.
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you can't bring the fish that you need to kill home. So.
Dan can't kill fish from home.
So
half of Dan's experiments involve killing fish. That's where this joke comes from.
Oh yeah,
it's worth pointing out. But yeah, so anyways, though, just keep that in mind when you support us on Patreon. All of those free reader mail questions come from people supporting us. You get Broken Silicon 1 to 2 days early with no ads. You get Die Shrink, Flyover States, or Hits and Gems every Friday. Never any ads. And you get access to some other content as well. And you're paying me, Dan, and Gerard soon. And probably other people as well, I would imagine, eventually. So
yeah,
just keep in mind that this is a team you're supporting here. And it's basically all been coming out of my pocket for the most part. I'm going to let you know we're not to the goals yet where it's basically still all out of my pocket at this point. But, you know, consider supporting us, and this will keep growing faster and faster. I think the quality, it's actually hard for me to watch some of my older videos, even the ones I deemed as classics are good, because the quality is so insanely lower than even some of my shorter videos from now. It's noticeable to you too, isn't it?
Yeah.
How much better the editing and the camera is now. Yeah. So I hope you guys notice the increase in quality. That's the only summarizing theme. You know, I had nothing big to correct this month, actually. shows you how much less of an idiot I am these days. And I guess let's get to the live chat questions. So again, if you tip us, we'll notice it and answer. Otherwise, we'll just kind of pick which ones we notice and want to do. Okay. All right. Spensiferous says, you should have worn full stalker gear in the thumbnail. I do have full stalker gear, like real stalker gear. But yeah, that stuff's heavy. And also people think you're a crazy person if you wear that. But you wear a gas mask and it's a funny joke. So
yeah, that's why I wear gas masks everywhere I go. People think it's hilarious.
but they're always laughing. Dan walking around in his bulletproof mask, bulletproof vest and gas mask. He goes, "Ha ha! I'm dressed like a terrorist." Isn't it funny?
Yeah, they think they love it.
Look like one of the bad guys and all geelied up in Call of Duty 4.
Yeah.
All right. I do like the game Stalker quite a bit, though. I still haven't played the new Metro, which is stupid of me, just by the same people. Where's the other tip? There it is. All right. Keo9 writes in, why is no one talking about the data compression in Kraken IO in the PlayStation 5? We know that Xbox does not use Kraken. It uses a different, they have their own stuff. They do have other stuff, though, that PCs don't have. It's a different thing. I believe we might see some tweaks in the size of downloads on both. Oh, yeah. I think downloads aren't going to get as big as people think. I think everyone's worried about disk size next gen, and I'm just not concerned. Yeah. I mean, a terabyte, 800 gigabytes is plenty. The games will take up. I think everyone's worried that because 100 gigabytes is basically the cap because of a Blu-ray disc, that all games are going to be 100 gigabytes. And hey, this could be, horrible prediction from Tom. Let's be clear. I could be wrong, but I suspect, especially around the launch of the console, most games will still just be 40 to 70 gigabytes.
I mean, I'm hoping. I think they talked about that a little bit in the Sony presentation, and I don't know how much we've hammered that to death on here ever, but like, generally speaking, I've heard that games probably will not get as big just because of the way that they can manage assets given the faster like RAM and SSDs now. Like, what was it? Some games need to have the same asset throughout it like 100 plus times, where now they can just reference the one instance of that asset in the game file.
And actually, this is quite exciting. And so, yeah, I could be wrong, but I think for now, they're not going to have to install the same texture 10 times. Literally, they would have to do that because they have to account for a hard drive, which has a physical little needle going around reading stuff. And so think if they're loading from, let's call it level 2, they have to make sure all the textures for level 2 are next to each other so the spindle doesn't have to move, wide distances. Which is hilarious to think that's how things used to work. It still kind of blows my mind. Hard drives literally are doing that fast.
Yeah, they're just like really fast record players.
Yeah, which is insane. And they don't need that anymore. They don't need to install the same texture a bazillion times anymore. And so I'm hoping that means there's going to be 100 gigabyte games. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I don't think most will be.
Yeah, I don't think games are going to go down to like 10 gigabytes next gen or something. But hopefully they'll stay around the same size as they are right now.
Yeah. Now this is something that's been going around now too with the PlayStation 5 is the way they might design the OS. This is something I want to talk about because I actually think this is a fascinating idea. So the PlayStation 5 solid state drive has 2 hosts. Xbox doesn't. It can send data in 2 directions. So the idea would be with the increased amount of bandwidth, with the Kraken, which basically is able to handle, which again, people are missing this, that the Kraken is actually at least twice as powerful as the IO controller in the Xbox. But that's because it has to stream the data as close to zero latency as possible for how they want to fundamentally render games with the PS5. And so think of it this way. The way they might organize the OS is you no longer boot up games, is what I've been told. So it's not, do you want to watch Westworld and then boot up, Battlefield 6 and then go into section 5 of the campaign? The idea is the OS will show continue Battlefield, Westworld, HBO Go, and then maybe Call of Duty Team Deathmatch. And there's no need to boot up a game. It just, because of how fast it is, it can just load into the part of the campaign you were, or you can. That sounds fascinating to me.
Yeah, and
again, we're talking half a second load times.
Yeah, and to go into like why they're not being talked about much, I just don't think it's immediately obvious what these, especially on Sony's part, what the faster compression will mean. But I mean, also Microsoft is targeting way lower load times as well, and I just don't think everyone knows what that really means for how
And-
how it will alter gameplay or
well,
console
I'm going to be
design.
honest. The Xbox isn't going to be any different than your PC.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
a good PC.
There was that State of Decay loading demo. It didn't impress me like at all. It's slower
Yeah,
than my PC. I
it's
know.
like-
I built my PC last year, guys. It's slower than my PC.
Yeah, it looks like
It's faster than a console.
yeah, it looks like a pretty fast PC, but yeah.
Yeah. And again, though, Sony's has to prove it. To this day, they've shown this many games.
Yeah, so
zero games for some reason.
Yeah, so to an extent, we're still
just kind of taking them at face value.
Yeah, so
which we shouldn't do.
So we won't really know how effective it is until we actually see it and presented to us, and hopefully they do that soon. But
what I will say is next gen in general, there's going to be, I think you're pretty much going to be done with the climbing up ladders to load a new area, going through a tunnel. Because even on the Xbox, it's still so much faster than last gen that even if you have to boot up a game, even if going into the game takes 10 seconds instead of a minute, that should still be fast enough, at least in the first half of the gen, I think, so that there's no need for stupid loading tunnels, right? Don't you think?
Oh, aren't you gonna?
Because you should be able to load the next section in a few seconds or at least 5 seconds, and so there's no need for. I mean, what's the funniest one? They said the train in the Spider-Man game was hilarious. You'd just sit on a train and talk to you. I haven't played Spider-Man games, so I mean, don't know.
The best example, because for some reason it just took forever to load, was like Mass Effect 1 and 2. No, I think it was mostly just 1, where like you would be in an elevator for like a minute. It felt like sometimes it would take so long to load.
Oh yeah, Mass Effect loading elevators. So I think stuff like that's pretty much gone.
Or the cool The Last of Us loading garage doors.
Oh yeah, that's what. Fuck, you're right. Those garage doors in The Last of Us, that was definitely a loading screen. Or again in Dark Souls, even though there were no load screens, just I guess there's this long spiral staircase with no enemies in it that I run through.
And once you get up it, a bunch of enemies just flop down.
Yeah, all the ragdolls fall to the ground if you've already killed them.
They did a pretty good job hiding it. They have done a pretty
good
job.
They did a good job of hiding it in Dark Souls. Some games do it in more obvious ways.
And in Dark Souls, they wanted that verticality to the world, so they kind of had to have those areas no matter what.
But, yeah, Dark Souls did a good job, but I think you're going to see an end to that. I will say this too, Keo9. I like that when you say, why is nobody talking about the compression and the crack under Microsoft's I/O controller? Because there's nothing to talk about until we see it proven.
Yeah, all we've seen is a game load in like 8 seconds on the Xbox Series X, and that's the best data we have right now.
To be honest, with both consoles, I don't think we've seen half of what they're capable of.
I hope we haven't, because
we haven't seen
haven't seen anything from the PS5 yet.
But I'm saying once you have this as the baseline, this level of performance, I think there's going to be a fundamental shift in graphics. Again, on PC, we're basically still just using up-res console games. Like, they're a lot smoother, usually, not always, usually, unless it's a Ubisoft game, then half the time it runs like shit. All right, let me scroll down here. All right, we are caught up now that we're done rambling about SSDs. Mistakes were made. PS5 security defeated day 0. I don't know what that means. It's not out yet, though, so we're not even to day 0. We're at day -200.
Maybe that's in reference to like the
IP leak.
Yeah,
I heard them reference Xbox and AMD Radeon IP first, but I have recently seen PlayStation IP is in it now too.
Oh, was it? Oh, I thought it was all.
So I think I think look that the IP theft at AMD is bad.
I think if I'm remembering this correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think AMD just said we're not going to like work with this guy who's threatening to leak our data. So maybe it's
they're an open company. See. I mean, my understanding is short term, this IP theft from AMD isn't going to really do anything in the next 2 years. But eventually, you might see Chinese firms with some startlingly similar to Pitcairn and 7970 and 290X designs coming out. Well, that's probably what we're going to see, and then eventually they'll use that to build on it, and it is what it is. But by then hopefully we'll have 3D stacked AMD and NVIDIA graphics cards, and they won't care.
And we'll get the Play Stop instead of the PlayStation 5.
The Play Stop 5.
Yeah. The Play Train.
No,
Station.
I like the Play Train 5. No, we've seen, what was it, the Joy Station? I've seen a lot of knockoff names from Chinese consoles. Which that needs to be a die shrink we'd use still. All right, let me see.
Consoles.
What is it? Someone said, why, I missed it, but one guy asked, why don't you talk more about how flash storage still isn't good enough for massive data? And I would say, I think that's going to change soon. I think eventually solid state drives are going to get cheap enough that even for holding tons of data, hard drives don't really make sense anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're already.
I think we're almost there
yeah.
when it comes to flash storage. It's
yeah,
just, but we're not quite. We're almost there, though. I've noticed that the hard drive versus SSD cost is really close.
I mean, the only thing I'm guessing hard drives are going to be good for soon is like storing massive amounts of data at like companies. But
well, yeah, and I know people will say, well, here's this, I don't know what they're up to now. I think there might even be a 20 terabyte hard drive. And they're like, yeah, but this is a 20 terabyte hard drive. You can't get that in an SSD. And it's like, yeah, but it's this big. So I can fit 3 SSDs in the same amount of space. Now you need 3 SATA interfaces, but there's controllers for that. I don't.
Yeah, I'm just saying I think hard drives are going to a point where they're really only good for cold storage.
I did technically buy
or warm storage,
a 2 terabyte hard drive for backing up Moore's Law's dead information.
Yeah,
because technically it still was like 2/3 the price, half the price. I didn't really care, but it is slow enough to back up the data that I kind of regret it. And I'm never buying another hard drive again. I think I'm just done.
Yeah, I don't think there's a point in getting them for your personal use now.
Wouldn't it be funny if I bet the PlayStation 5 has a utility that doesn't let you install a slow solid state drive. Wouldn't it be funny if there was some bizarre M.2 mini hard drive put inside the PS, probably the games run?
Yeah, that would be really fun to do.
It would be fun to do. I bet the game would crash.
I mean, we'll see. We don't know how integral it will be to most games, but
all right. John O'Shea gave us a tip. Thank you. He says, not sure how much info is available on the RDNA leak, but do you know if it is the functional or gate level Verilog? I know you want to wait for the Cortex video coming out in apparently an hour and a half. That's what I think you want to do. And I've been, me and Cortex, we do talk to each other and sometimes share information. And it's like, nah, man, you handle the IP theft. I know you'll analyze it, and he's got the background with AMD as well. So that's one of the things where it's like, watch Cortex's next video, which I think comes out very soon.
He's editing it as we speak.
He's editing it as we speak. Maybe screenshotting us to make fun of us later. Let's see. Do you think Sony has a potential memory bandwidth bottleneck? No, I think the Xbox has a bandwidth bottleneck, if anything. I think it's really weird that the Xbox has this odd segmented memory system, right?
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of people type in the chat right now. What's going on here? Okay. You guys are distracting me. Why is everyone typing F?
I think there might be a problem with the stream quality right now.
Can you guys still hear us? Because I can see everything you guys are typing, and everything says it's working fine right now.
Okay. Oh, I think there was a problem with the stream, and some people needed to refresh it.
Oh, yeah. Look, guys, make sure. I will say this. Before you guys type something's wrong with the stream or the audio, make sure it's not on your end. Because I have had this happen a lot of times for me where someone just starts spamming. And I don't think you guys were necessarily spamming, but I have seen people spam in the past, not working. And then someone says, press F5. They do, and they're like, oh, never mind.
And everyone in the world, almost at this point, everyone in the country / world at this point is
getting throttled internet. Yeah, I understand that some people might be having problems right now. There's nothing we can do about a pandemic causing all world internet to be throttled. There's nothing we can do. Anyways, though, what was I answering? It was something about the memory and the consoles. No, I think Xbox, if anything, has a bandwidth issue. And it's because they say there's 6. So think of it this way, right? Now the card has a lot of bandwidth itself. It has a 10 gigabyte 320-bit bus, but then they have 6 gigabytes for the OS and the OS and system RAM. And the OS uses 3.5 gigabytes. I mean, is anyone here like you guys have brains? Think about it. Do you think games that are modern can use 2.5 gigabytes and that's enough? They're gonna have to pull from the graphics segment to run the system.
Yeah, the segmentation on it.
Like,
on the
I don't know why
Xbox,
people are missing this.
it's strange to me. I'm curious to see if it will cause performance issues. I mean, I suspect
I think
it
at
will.
launch it might not for most games, but long term, 2.5 gigabytes is not enough for system RAM. So they're going to have to pull from that 560 gigabytes per bandwidth. It's really going to be closer to probably 500 or so, because they're going to have to take some of the data and park it in the graphics memory. I don't know which or how. I don't design games, but they're going to have to. And the fact that they can't use, and the fact that they have to, that it's segmented, means there's going to be some bottlenecks going back and forth. And then also the fact that I know Xbox claims they can use the SSD as virtual memory. I'm here to tell you developers say they can't. So I don't know. I know they're trying to make it sound like they can, but they can't, at least not in the same way Sony's literally trying to, is my understanding. Again, we'll have to see proof, but I'm not worried about the PlayStation's bandwidth at all, actually. I will say this, though, if they can afford it, buy faster RAM. And I was actually thinking about this. If there was, here comes Dan's dog. If there was an arms race to beef up the consoles, and you were to ask me what should they do, if I would say, well, if Sony can afford it, go for 16 or 18 gigabit per second memory. Give it as much or more bandwidth in the Xbox Series X. And then if you said, oh, well, then should Microsoft buy faster memory? I would say no, they should buy more. Like they should double the 6 gigabyte portion to 12. Make it a 22 gigabyte console. I think that's what you would want to do if you were going to beef up the console, right? I think Sony could use a bit more speed, but I think Microsoft could just use more memory. If they both did that, I'd probably say they're even again. Yeah, I know it doesn't run as fast, but I think it's fast enough for system memory. I'm not going to worry about that yet. It's hard to say. I don't program games, so I don't know how much that's going to matter that it's slower.
Well, actually,
and it's actually per chip, so I'm not even sure how much.
Has Microsoft said that like it's functionally the 6 gigabyte pool is the system RAM, or is that just what we're saying it is because the OS pulls from that 6 gigabytes, right?
Yeah, so they're saying that's the system RAM. And then I don't know really how they organize it. I really don't know why Microsoft didn't just, I think they should have just spent the extra like $20, $30 to have a uniform 20 gigabyte pool of memory. I don't get why they didn't do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But again, what you got to keep in mind is this, and I really don't know why so many people are missing this point here. The Xbox is being advertised as being used to stream 4 Xbox One instances in 1080p, right? They want to use the Xbox One for the, I'm sorry, Jesus, these names. The Xbox Series X. They want to use the Xbox Series X APU and server clusters for xCloud, which is a good idea. That means it doesn't matter how well Xbox does. They can just keep buying these for servers. And in the server format, I think they said it can support up to like 48 gigabytes of memory, more than 48, like 64 gigabytes of memory. So that's what they're going to do, right? And they'll have like a 32 or 64 gigabyte system running multiple games streaming over xCloud, which sounds like it works pretty well in its beta form. And then the 16 gigabytes isn't a problem. They can just make the system part as big as they want. So that's something to think about too. How they might have thought about balancing it between enough for a console and a streaming APU. I think I'm losing my train of thought, though, so I need to move on. Dame Pletvarik writes in, and he says, Ampere stronger than RDNA 2 when it's on 10 nanometer. Yeah, I think they're going to call it 8 nanometer, and I think it's fair. Its density is only like 10-20% worse than 7 nanometer non-P.
And Ampere is going to be on 10. Well,
10
8 nanometer.
Yeah.
And those node size, those node sizes they always say are it's marketing
bullshit.
gimmicks.
Yeah.
half the time.
So do I think it's gonna be stronger? I mean, guys, I just did that video, comparing how strong I think Ampere is gonna be versus how strong big RDNA is gonna be. And I think there's no way to know who's going to be strong, stronger by what, 5%? I don't know. I think they're gonna be close though. I think there's room for AMD to beat Ampere and Ampere to beat AMD. We just have to see. I at least think the 8-nanometer cards aren't going to beat big RDNA. But I don't know what AMD plans to sell the big RDNA cards for. Like, are they going to be $2,000? And I also don't know if they're going to bring out. There was this benchmark of a GTX 3090. You don't think they're doing double cards again to keep the performance crown?
That would
it's been a while since they made a double card.
Would they still function? Yeah, like
they'd have to write the drivers
because SLI doesn't really work that well.
It works.
Do they still do SLI?
Yeah, they do, but they only allowed in the top cards.
Oh yeah.
The 3090 could be like a double cut down, like 3080 Ti, or double 3080.
I would think a double. Well, maybe it would be a 3080 Ti that they sell for what, $4,000?
Yeah, they sell for $3,000. Yeah, I don't know. So keep that in mind. I didn't touch on that in the video, but I am aware there's a 3090 being benchmarked. And so I would guess this is either a cut down Titan because remember, so they're going to make the most of their gaming lineup on 8-nanometer. And then they're going to have 7-nanometer for their top cards. It wouldn't surprise me if one cut down version of that was released for like $1,200. So they could say they still have the gaming performance crown. And I do think that can beat big RDNA. But I really think it's going to be hard for 8-nanometer Ampere to beat big RDNA 2.0 because it just sounds really powerful. But again, it's like,
who knows?
Who knows? I think there's potential for them to be close to each other. I think I answered that question.
Yeah, and well, like as John Petty said, like NVIDIA responds fast, and within 6 months they'll probably have an answer. And that could just be a double card. You never know. But
I'm just writing down timestamps here. Okay, so got more reader mails here. All right. Benevolent24 says, when will we get 8K VR option from Vive or Oculus? Well, there are 8K VR consoles. I think it's actually dual 4K.
What's Oculus at right now?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't keep track of that.
I don't know. Yeah.
When? I mean, probably a while. I don't know when a GPU would even.
And what do you mean by 8K? Because I know there's a VR device for a while now that has 4K per eye, and they call it 8K. That's not really 8K.
It's
half of 8K.
What is it, like 6? I don't.
No. It's
I don't want
some
to
bullshit.
Yeah.
It's per eye.
2 times 4K though, essentially.
Yeah, and so are you talking about 8K per eye? I mean, never. I don't know.
When
10 years.
What GPU would you even need to run that? That would be something so insanely stronger than what we have right now. That
you
need something like 16 times stronger at least.
You would
probably.
need you need an 8-tile Intel GPU. Which is what we're talking about by the time that would ever be a thing. So I have no clue. What I do know, although this is old information, is that Sony has been planning a 4K, a 1440p per eye, 120 hertz wireless VR device for the PlayStation. Again, that's one of those things they'll have to prove to me that it works, but if it did, that'd be insane. I think 1440p per eye is kind of what we're going to settle on for a while. I've heard Linus Tech Tips did test one too, I believe. And he said 1440p per eye was just about where the screen door effect was completely gone, but the 4K one per eye did look better.
I'm curious what like the PS5's VR, how high resolution that will go to.
Well, I just said
1440p
per eye.
I'm curious how well that will run, I guess.
That's still not even 4K.
That's true.
So if they can, I think it's doable. I think it's powerful enough to do 1440p per eye. I mean, we'll just have to see.
Maybe you need 120 FPS for VR, but
yeah, but I think it's strong enough for that. I'm not really worried. Let's see. JD Gamer, wouldn't it be cheaper to simply overclock the GPU by another 6.5% and get to, I'm assuming he means the Xbox, and get to 1950 gigahertz? Okay, all right. This is a bit of a muddled question. Careful how you type your stuff, guys. JD Gamer, I'm going to paraphrase what I believe he's asking. He's saying instead of increasing the bandwidth in the next gen Xbox, wouldn't it be better to just overclock the core? No, not necessarily. That's more heat. You got to keep in mind, like so let's go back to last gen. The PS4's GPU was roughly based on a 7870. It was actually kind of a 7870, 7970 hybrid architecture. And they clocked it at 800 megahertz despite the 7870 running at 1000 megahertz because it was more efficient there. Xbox chose more compute units, lower clocks to fit in under 300 watts.
And what is
that's why?
Yeah, and they're going to be using under 300 watts.
Right. They have a 300 watt power supply, and consoles typically buy a power supply 20% better, I believe, than what they need because they don't want it to break over 5 years. So no, because that would use way more energy than adding more bandwidth. Now, I don't know. I don't think the Xbox needs more bandwidth. I'm saying I think, and maybe the PlayStation doesn't either. Like, I don't know how good RDNA 2.0 is. Like, I'm just saying that I know Sony was originally planning to go with faster memory, and I think they cheaped out to make the console cheaper for the coronavirus. I think overall, the performance will probably be about the same anyways, but I think they would have had another specs win if they did that. So if they can afford to, they should. I don't know if they can get to 18 gigabit per second. I think 16 is kind of a no-brainer for 10 teraflops, though, if you ask me. I don't think the Xbox needs more bandwidth. I think it needs more RAM. So again, my answer to beef it up would be give it more RAM so it doesn't get bottlenecked. And again, going to 1950 gigahertz, I love how people just think you can go to, a higher gigahertz on the Xbox because the PlayStation can. And it's like, well, the PlayStation has less compute units. We don't know how dense they are either. It seems like that, 360 millimeters squared for the Xbox, that's really small for 56 compute units, guys. So I think they intentionally put the cores really close to each other to make a smaller die. Which TSMC has really, really small defect rates. So that would make sense why they would do that. They don't don't expect a lot of defects. And I think that the density is I don't think the PlayStation is going to be like half as big. I think it's going to be like 300 millimeters squared because the cores are specifically more spread out so they can clock faster because that's what they wanted. It's just a different approach, right?
Yeah, so heat might be an issue.
Just because Sony can hit 2.2 gigahertz does not mean you should assume Xbox can get even remotely close. They're different. They're their own versions of RDNA 2.0. Sony was going for 2.3 gigahertz, actually, based on what my source told me a year ago. And Microsoft was always going for, well, actually, I don't know what they were always going for. I had no Xbox sources except that they were going for, no, I did know they were going for something pretty big, though, from the start. Yeah, there were those early leaks that their dev kits were Vega cards too.
Yeah, but we didn't get like strong details on what the Xbox Series X is going to be until what, like 4 months ago, probably.
Well, it turns out some leakers were correct early, but there was no way to be sure for a while until we got that Digital Foundry leak.
You'd see a bunch of leaks, and it's like, yeah, all of these could be real, but it's hard to tell which one is or not.
Yeah, but yeah, again, so I guess that's something I really want to hammer here. Is the idea that you can just clock the Xbox faster is 360 millimeters squared. They're going for a denser APU that's clocked lower. That's how they've engineered it. And it's also because it has to double as a server chip, guys. I don't know why I keep saying that. It has to work well as a server chip. And that's why they would want more compute units clocked lower because it's also a server chip. Whereas Sony's is just a pure gaming chip like Pascal. Yeah. Let me see here. Oh, now we do have another one. Benevolent, when will we get to see 8K PC gaming? Now, go buy one. There's 8K monitors.
16K?
I recommend a Titan RTX or a Radeon 7. Actually, that's a comparison I've wanted to see. Oh, I think I have seen it. And Titan RTX still wins by like 20% or so, even with the massive bandwidth of Radeon 7. So yeah, go with, but when will we get 8K PC gaming? Well, so I know RDNA 2, which they do want to launch desktop RDNA 2 this fall around the consoles. AMD wants to make it look like it's an all-out assault on graphics, is what I was told. And so the biggest the way AMD wants to market it is our consoles and our mid-range graphics cards can do 4K 60. And then they want to market the biggest 80 compute unit RDNA 2 card is a 4K 120 hertz HDR gaming card, which if you think about it, the 5700 XT is basically a 4K gaming card. So double the compute units, clock it faster, and give it over double the bandwidth. Do I think that could do 4K 160 with the higher IPC?
Maybe.
I mean, did I say 4K 160? 4K 120.
Yeah.
4K 120. Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be over twice as strong as the 5700 XT. And if it can do 4K 120 hertz, I think it could do 8K.
Yeah, I mean, well, to some level, that might only be like 8K 30, but
no, I mean, I know Titan RTX can do 8K 40. Pretty much. Well, in Battlefield 5, which is a really well-run game, though. So it's not like every game.
I guess, well, I'm also curious if people even notice the difference at 8K, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I will say that too. I think there's going to be some console games that have an 8K option. I think there will be console games that have 4K 120 option and 8K option. That's Dan's dog, if you guys are wondering, that he brought from Boston.
Yeah. She likes standing on the back of this couch
and watching what we're doing. Anyway, so I think when will we get 16K gaming? Not for a decade.
I don't know.
I think by the time we have 16K monitors, it's going to be like we've gotten so past photorealism. It's like, fuck it.
I'm curious, like, I don't know if maybe this is a hot take, but maybe we'll never have 16K gaming because I literally don't know if that really might be the limit at some point. Like, no one's going to be able to tell the difference between 8K and 16K.
This guy says beer time, Dan.
Do we have beer?
No, we're out of beer. We have sake. Okay. You want some cold sake?
Sure. I'll go get some sake.
Okay. Or you could get white wine and we could look like a couple of bitches.
I'll go get sake.
Okay. Use the 2 small cold glasses in the freezer. All right. We'll drink. We'll have a couple drinks here. I don't think we're going to do this too much longer. We do want to walk the dogs within 30 minutes, but we'll have a beer. We'll have a sake. We are in quarantine mode, so we have heavier liquors stocked up right now. Let me write that down. We'll even put a timestamp. Sake time at 1 hour and a minute. Now you're going to get our real honest opinions. Thank you, brother. Yeah, I'd much rather have 4K like 240 hertz, I think, than 8K. Yeah. You need a CPU strong enough. Dan, what should we toast to?
I don't know. There's not much to toast
to. The survival of the human race.
Yeah. We'll make it.
Yeah. All right. Oh, we got more questions. Let's see what the plebs are saying too. Pong in 8K would be awesome. Yeah, maybe.
Hell yeah.
Some good old 16K solitaire. Do I think the PS5 can do 4K 60? Yeah. So again, there's a lot of wild cards going on here. We don't know how much better RDNA 2 is than RDNA 1 for sure. But what I've been told is you can expect 20 to 30% IPC increases. Wouldn't you, based on Renoir Vega having that over?
Yeah.
So based on the IPC expectations of RDNA 2 alone, I would say the PlayStation 5 is around a 2080 Ti, and so is the Xbox. Again, and considering devs will program to the metal, I'm not really worried about 4K 60 at all. I think that's going to be easy. And again, the 60 hertz of last gen, it wasn't the graphics card, guys. It was the stupid slow processors that were never meant for 60 hertz gaming. That's why we didn't have every game at 60 hertz. And in fact, I'm surprised we had any. Like, how slow that was. It just goes to show you how good developers can be if they program really hard specifically for a console. But anyways, I also want to say that, guys, there's going to be games next gen on both consoles that aren't in 4K. They'll be like 1800p upscaled, and that's that. And I just want to point that out because I think this generation is not the generation anyone gives a shit about resolution. Don't you think? Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like if a dev chooses to go below 4K, they'll do so because they don't think it looks worse.
Yeah, I guess we'll see, but I
Well-
don't think either of those machines are going to have much trouble running 4K 60.
No, me
so.
neither. I think you'd turn off anti-aliasing anyways, and they have really good they have sharpening filters now that are really good, and I think whatever we see next gen, I think the debate over resolutions is over. I think that was a last gen argument. Like really,
Yeah.
it really was a last gen argument, and I think we're going to be happy with that. There might be frame rate discussions, I guess, but honestly, I think close to 4K, usually always 4K and 60 is just gonna happen. Like there's no compromises in the CPUs this time.
No, definitely not.
Like it's not gonna be an issue. I really don't think I think and again, that's what every single developer has said publicly. This is not going to be a generation of visual differences. I think we're just there. You know, the CPU is strong enough for 60 hertz. The graphics cards are strong enough for 4K. I think after that, it's going to be a matter of what you do with the well of power you have. These are powerful consoles. Listen to the John Petty interview for Broken Silicon. I mean, it's funny that, PC analysts usually make fun of consoles, but he said, in a word, I'm impressed. I'm actually impressed this gen with what they're doing. And so that's all I can say. But that wasn't a tip question. I didn't want to answer it, though. Blah Dita says, how much better would RDNA 2 have to be for you to consider upgrading? Well, so I have a Radeon 7 that I use because it can use professional drivers, and it's really good at rendering. How much better? So it would have to be the apps I use for rendering. They would literally have to render twice as fast. And if they did, and a RDNA 2 HBM2E card comes out for under $1,000, I guess I'll just get it.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess for me, I'm more opportunistic of an upgrader, so I doubt I'll get RDNA 2 no matter what this year. Well, I mean, we'll see. If there was some great card that came out, maybe, but I have Vega 56, and Vega 56 still works well.
That has high bandwidth cache. You have 16 gigabytes of RAM, so it's like,
yeah,
you can run every AAA game, and you have an NVMe drive faster than the Xbox.
Yeah,
you can run every game next gen. You're fine.
Yeah, so
you don't need to upgrade for 10 years.
I'll probably upgrade in the next 2 years, but we'll see. I mean, I don't need to upgrade anytime soon, though. So
yeah, and I think me and you are like, we're not graphics whores either. Like, I think me and you have been happy with graphics since what, the 390X? Been pretty spoiled since then, right?
I mean, I was pretty happy with my 7950. There were some issues with the 7950, like there wasn't enough RAM near the end of its life, but
I mean, yeah, since the 390X, I think we've been pretty happy with graphics. We've never been afraid to turn settings to medium. And, I have a Radeon 7. Dan has a Vega 56. They're both, yours is flashed to a 64, though.
Yeah.
They're both overclocked. Like, it's fine, if I want to turn down a few settings. So nothing for gaming is really making me upgrade. But, I mean, I guess your answer then is it has to be stupidly better and quieter.
Yeah.
Like it has to be like a $200 card. Like, let's say to make you upgrade, right? It would be like you want to spoil yourself, and like what, the 6500 XT is 30% stronger and uses half the energy. You consider it?
Yeah, maybe. But right. I mean, I'm also going to be getting a PS5 this year, probably. So
yeah, which is another thing too. Is if the PlayStation 5 doesn't pan out well, or there aren't exclusives at launch, we don't need to get a console. We'll just keep gaming on PC. We're fine.
Yeah.
I don't understand these arguments to buy, like, for instance, the Series X for... We have Vega...
18 months?
Yeah, we have the Vega cards. What do we need? We can play all the same games that are on Xbox. I don't know why we would buy it in the first place.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess, like, we'll see once Sony actually shows what the hell the console does,
which is why
I'll decide on if I'm going to get a day one or not.
Yeah, and that's why I'm more interested in it too. It's not just the exclusives; it's the fact that it will supposedly have better sound, VR, and 0 load times. That stuff my PC can't do, so I'm interested in it. Like, yeah. I'm not interested in just buying another PC that says Xbox. I already have a PC. I'm just being honest. We're drinking, so I'm honest. And just like, a lot of people tell me to get the Switch, and it's like, well, I don't really want those games. If I did, if the Switch had Paper Mario and there was a $100 Switch, I'd probably get one.
Yeah, and the Switch is what, $300 still, which is insane to me.
I looked at the bill of materials for a Switch. That thing can't cost more than like $100 to make.
If it were 150, I would consider it. Well, no, I would actually. If it were 150, I might get it just because I have some friends that have a Switch that I would want to play with me.
It is
That's
very
about
good.
it.
It is very good for couch co-op. There's a lot of fun couch co-op games on the Switch. Like a friend brought over a Switch and just hooked it up to the TV over there, and then took out the Joy-Cons or whatever, and we just started playing arcade games. It was fun.
Yeah, and I have a couple friends that want to play shit on the Switch with me on the Switch, so I might get one at some point, but I'm not paying $300 for that thing.
All right, let's see. Scrolling up. Benevolent writes in. He says the reason about 16K is because VR needs more resolution. Right, but my understanding is the tests, and again, I haven't tested this right, but I have a 4K phone that I've used with Google Cardboard, and I didn't notice much of a VR screen door effect with that. So I think you get 4K in VR, and it's pretty good. And that's what 1440p per eye basically is. I think we'll be happy with that. And I think 4K per eye will be good enough.
And I'll also add, I am skeptical if anyone could tell the difference between 8K and 16K.
Yeah, me too. I don't think anyone will. I think 4K per eye will be ideal. I think anything more than 5K per eye, I legitimately don't know if I'll believe you'll tell the difference.
How does 5K double the resolution of?
It's the same difference between 1080p and 1440p.
Okay.
So it's like 70%
Okay.
more. Yeah. All right, let me scroll down. Get more tips into that. How long before AMD does 5 gigahertz? Before AMD CPU GPU cards have 5 gigahertz? I don't know if he means radios.
I don't know.
How long until 5 gigahertz on AMD? Well, RDNA 2 cards. I mean, if the PlayStation can do 2.2 gigahertz, it wouldn't surprise me if some RDNA 2 cards overclocked on desktop can do 2.4. We'll have to see though. I'm not sure. We don't know if the PlayStation was literally designed to clock that high and the rest of them aren't.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
I don't know.
Because that's about as high as I've really seen a card get on is the PS5.
Yeah, I know. So
yeah, I don't know really.
Yeah, so I don't know. For CPUs, I think Zen 4 might have 5 gigahertz. And I've heard Zen 3 clocks faster than Zen 2, which the 3950X for split seconds boosts to 4.7 gigahertz. So might we get to 5? I don't think so, actually. I kind of think Zen 3 will be 4.8, 4.9 gigahertz.
Maybe they'll get 1 to 5 to...
They should just... I think we'll get some overclocked Zen 3 chips to 5 gigahertz. I think Zen 4 might finally be where they get to 5. That's what I expect. I don't really think we'll ever get 5 gigahertz graphics cards. I never say never, but I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I mean,
it would have to be a fundamentally different architecture than what they're doing now. Like that's doubling in speed, and we've never seen that in graphics architectures.
I mean, I guess if you look at CPU clocks over time, you saw that massive increase. So maybe that will happen with GPUs, but it seems
they're
like
denser and there's more cores.
Yeah, I know.
So
it seems like they've pretty much stabilized around like the 1.2 to 2 gigahertz range.
Yeah. Even and sure, like top Turing cards, Radeon 7s, 5700 XTs, when you overclock them, can hit 2.1 gigahertz. But you'll find a lot of the lower end cards still are around 12 to 1400.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's ever happening for GPUs, but for CPUs, I think eventually AMD will get to 5 gigahertz. But I don't know if they care though, right?
And if you dump liquid nitrogen on it, you might be able to get it to like 7 though. So.
I don't know. I think if you want to get to 7 gigahertz, Pile Driver is the best one still. Or Bulldozer 1.0, they did overclock to 8 gigahertz. I'm not sure anyone's ever beaten Pile Driver yet.
I would have to. I don't.
It
care
was
about
built
that,
to clock
so.
high. Is liquid cooling necessary for a good 8K PC? No. Just put a gigantic heatsink. No, I mean an 8K gaming PC. The only thing that could do that now really is Titan RTX SLI.
Yeah.
And it would do it. It would do it. Like you just get that in a 3950X because why not? At that point, just get Threadripper, I guess. You're spending money, but we just heard the dogs upstairs wrestling. Let me scroll down. What's AMD's PhysX and where is that going? AMD's PhysX? The Havoc engine? Yeah, I don't know. I think these closed source things are going away. Even Nvidia's starting to work on opening up ray tracing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think there's going to be any PhysX, at least from AMD. At least I hope not.
Yeah, me too.
Hashtag me too. Okay, let's see. When do you think we'll see 10 gigahertz, 20 gigahertz? From Dan Nagura. I don't think ever.
Never.
I mean, if we get to like graphene, maybe we'll get past 5, but I'm skeptical that 10. I've heard maybe 10 from some of the newer materials.
Okay.
I mean, it's hey, we'll be happy if in 10 years from now or 15 years we have 10 gigahertz laptops or something. That'd be sick. Imagine the low latency.
Are you excited for a 1 terahertz CPU, Tom?
Yeah, that's never gonna happen. But yeah, I don't think ever is my answer. I think it's a joke question. Comparable CPU, GPU to the PS5 to an i9 64 RAM. I think he means i9 with 64 gigabytes of RAM. No, again, the way I've had this PS5 described is it's actually just designed like a mid-range next-gen console, whereas the Xbox is an ultra high-end last-gen console. It's not to say that it's as weak as last-gen. It's substantially stronger, but that the way the PlayStation 5 is organized is just different, and they're going to have to prove that it works. So what I would say is I don't know what a comparable PC will be. I would say a comparable PC will be the fastest Gen 4 SSD you can possibly buy, and a 3800X and I don't know what to do about the graphics card. We don't even know how good RDNA 2 is. So
I mean,
Titan RTX, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know.
I would bet somewhere between 2080 Ti, but
probably, but we'll don't know what special things.
Yeah, we'll see. It's
RDNA
really
is capable of. Like the new rapid packed math the consoles will be able to do with FP8 and FP4 operations. Like that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think when you program down to the metal, the next gen consoles may substantially exceed the performance people think they will.
I hope they do, and yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see.
Yeah. Someone said, "Will console ports be?" I'm not sure what he meant by that.
Yes.
Yes, will console ports be? Oh. All right, let me see here. Let me keep scrolling. Oh, there it is. Yes, the question. KLP901 asks, will next-gen console ports be better optimized for PC? I think they're all going to be pretty good working, right? I don't think we're going to have these horrible. We didn't get that many bad ports last gen, did we?
No.
The PS360 gen was the gen of horrible PC ports.
Well, that's when the Japanese figured out that they could put games on PC.
Yeah, so that was a problem.
They figured it out.
Also, the consoles were fundamentally different from PCs.
That's true.
So you had, and they would design games for console first, then port it. Now they design the games for PC and port it to console, or really they're all designed at the same time.
Yeah. So will they be better? I mean, I think that's really like dev dependent. As some devs are way better at porting porting to PCs.
Right, like DICE is excellent at putting games on PC and on console as well. I'm always impressed by how good their games look on all systems they put them on. I'm not really worried about console ports. I think they're all going to be fine. The Xbox Series X is a PC. It literally has 2 segments of RAM. I think console ports are going to be fine. I'm really not worried. And the entire initiative with Xbox is to have their games designed for Windows 10, and then they just put it on both. So there's that. And I know that it's not bullshit. Apparently, literally the PS5 was designed in a way the devs asked them to design it. So I really think it's just going to be easy to design for all of these.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully.
Although you need an SSD on PC, guys. For sure, any game designed for PlayStation first will need super fast SSDs. And Xbox said that their Windows 10 games they develop just won't run on HDD hard drives. Like they just openly said it won't boot on a hard drive. Don't have one.
If anyone that's listening or watching this is still using hard drives for gaming. Get an SSD.
Get an SSD. They're cheap now.
But
I understand if you really don't have money to spend, but whenever you get a chance, it's like
I mean, I was
don't upgrade your graphics card, right? Get an SSD.
I was able to get a Sabrent Gen 3 SSD for 1 terabyte for I think like $115, and it's like what I think 3.8 gigabytes per second. It's a really good SSD. So I'll plug that if you're looking for a relatively cheap NVMe.
Yeah, and let me say this about solid state drives too. They're not nearly as expensive as some people are acting.
They're not bad anymore at all.
No, I got my Gen 4 4.9 gigabyte per second SSD, also Sabrent. Except mine was the Gen 4 version, and it was like 140, I think. 140 for a 4.9 gigabytes per second SSD. So anyone telling you, oh, the SSD in the Xbox is going to be really expensive. Well, I don't know how much they're going to charge for their proprietary SSDs, but they are not expensive. Dan's SSD was $115, and it's, I would say, 10-20% faster overall than what's in the next gen Xbox. So I'm telling you, I expect Microsoft to charge $100 per terabyte memory card, because they actually kind of look like memory cards. Like they're going to charge $100 per terabyte, and if they don't, they're gouging you for money.
I bet they'll do. It'll be like 120. I bet
120 is not completely abhorrent.
I hope. I don't think.
I hope they don't. Because I've heard people say, I bet they charge $250, and it's like, don't assume the worst.
I think Microsoft has passed their price gouging bullshit when it comes to the
Xbox. Me too. I think they're done with the price gouging. I will say that if the Xbox solid state drives cost more than 120, they're raking you over the like that. They don't cost even $80 to make. So like they probably cost like $70-$60. So I will accept 100. But they're still making a pretty penny on it. But anything more than that, and whatever. And also, I was told recently, this is since the PlayStation video actually, that the controller in the PlayStation 5's SSD is like an extra $10, and that the memory chips themselves aren't expensive. They just have more of them because there's 12 memory channels instead of 8.
Mm-hmm.
So I only think the PlayStation SSD costs $10-$20 more than and it has less storage. I think the PlayStation SSD costs only like $10 more. I know people will say that's insane, but it's like, well, the real cost came from the R&D, right? Sony helped develop this with a company, I won't say, and I've only shared with select people I trust. Although apparently some other analysts know it too, but no one else seems to. But so it really doesn't cost that much. It was the development cost to make that SSD. And I also will tell you guys that the company who made the SSD that's in the PlayStation 5, they do have plans to bring 1.6 and 3.2 terabyte versions to PC in about a year and a half or so. So the people that go, oh, how are we going to have an SSD fast enough for PS5 games? I would say, first of all, PS5 games are only on PS5. Second of all, what I would say is that it's coming to PC, and it'll be faster than what's in the PS5 in a year or so.
Yeah,
and I want one.
Yeah, and that's what you can hope is that this gen brings some new ideas to PC gaming and makes PCs better as well.
But again, they're gonna have to like really update Windows to make use of this thing.
Yeah.
And imagine what you can do too. So it's in a constrained console. Imagine if they get 1.6 terabyte drive and it's clocked twice as fast. So you have 12 channels at like 10 gigabytes a second. Or
well,
I want one.
That would be slow RAM at that point. So
I mean, it would literally be like you have DDR2 in your system or something. Yeah. All right, let us move down to more questions. I know there's more tips here somewhere. All right. Johannes T says, is TSMC production a bottleneck for AMD this year? I think it's a bottleneck for everyone to a certain extent because everyone wants to use TSMC, but I don't think it's as bad as people think.
And well, I won't speak to that. I was going to say TSMC is opening more fabs too.
They are. They're expanding the fabs. I guess they're not quite ready yet though. But yeah, I think TSMC's production a bottleneck for AMD. I don't know. I mean, I see plenty of AMD products in stock. So for now, I don't really think it is actually.
Yeah, it's really
now. If AMD starts really taking market share next year, maybe, but they're still using Global Foundries a little. So, and by the time they stop using Global Foundries, which should be around 2022, TSMC will have like tripled its capacity.
Do
So
they ha-
I don't
is-
think so. I think TSMC has enough money to fund it.
Is a deal with Global Foundries that like ending in 2022, or is that just
Yeah, I think it's like 2023 or something. But I think,
Okay.
but it keeps getting renegotiated to be smaller. And I think by the time we get to 2022, AMD is going to be like a TSMC subsidiary or something. Like, but mainstream gaming switching to mostly using APU with Ryzen 5000, will they be on AM4? I mean, I think Zen 3 will be on AM4. No, I don't think Zen 4 will be. I think that's pretty much a given. Zen 4 is, DDR5, PCIe 5.0, AM4. I think that's just that. It's going to be a fundamentally new architecture, just like Zen 2 was. I think they're going to go to it. It's amazing they even fit Zen 2 on the same socket.
And what AM4? That was Zen 1. So I mean,
It actually supported Bristol Ridge excavator APUs too for a while before Zen even launched.
So yeah, I'd imagine that they have to switch to a new socket at some point. What, they've been on the same one now for what, 4 years then?
Yeah, they will have been.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's all they've met their, they've stated what they said it would do. So no, I think they're going to a new socket and mainstream APUs. I mean, the one, again, I've said this a million times. I think people think, oh, eventually AMD will move to APUs to nickel and dime you, so you have to upgrade your whole system. And it's like, well, they certainly don't mind that. But APUs have lower latency. Lower latency means less wasted energy. Less wasted energy means less heat. That is a bottleneck to performance. It also is an increase in IPC de facto. So eventually, I think really powerful APUs are the only way to scale performance. Anyways, 3D stacked APUs. So it's like, will that be Zen 4? I don't think it will, but I think Zen 5 maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. It depends on. So I think first, like, it will have to become more standard for like just a unified pool of RAM to be on a PC. So
well, and they can 3D stacks a little bit on the APU too eventually.
Yeah, so maybe if they like 3D stack some HBM onto it or something like that. I think like RAM might be a big bottleneck to APUs taking over like discrete GPU, CPU.
Well, I've always thought that eventually though we can get a more open memory standard for memory sticks. That's not just for RAM. So it's like, do you want DDR6 or do you want HBM or do you want GDDR7 in your RAM slots?
Hopefully, yeah,
like that. Cool. Fundamentally, I think once we move to a standard like that, all you're going to do is you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to be doing a lot of rendering work. I don't need as much bandwidth. I just need a lot of compute. And so you'll get a compute APU that perfectly balances, like, let's say a 24 core and a powerful rendering graphics card. And then you'll say, I just need a ton of RAM. So I'm going to buy a bunch of DDR7. But then you're a gamer. You'll say, I'll buy 6 of GDDR7. But then you're someone who does a lot of, mining, I don't know. And you'll just like say, I'm going to get HBM sticks. I think that's the future I want to live in, where you just pick the type of memory, the APU, and the motherboard, and you're done.
And I guess I don't.
And then I guess, and maybe not even storage. Like maybe RAM will get so big that you're just like, yeah, I got a terabyte of HBM4.
Currently,
of course, that costs a shit ton, but
currently only costs $20,000 to get a terabyte of
error
correcting RAM.
Yeah, $20,000. That's about a few meals out because of inflation by then. Fed's printing money, guys. That's how they're paying for stuff. All right, let's keep moving on. Indra Ju says, I think he meant 5G cell towers. Oh, yeah. I'm not the expert on 5G. Wait. If that's what the other guy meant who brought up 5 gigahertz.
Oh, yeah.
When will they have 5G on AMD? That's probably what he meant. When will they have 5G capabilities on those chips? I don't know. I don't really follow 5G closely. I did have a network engineer on Broken Silicon. I'll probably have him on again sometime. I would say listen to that episode because that's just not something I've chosen to focus on. I think that's unfortunately my answer. See what else we have here. There's some here. Rento Rojas says, do you know what the big deal is with the PS5 SSD? I think I've talked about it till I'm blue in the face. The big deal is it might allow Sony to render things fundamentally in a more efficient way. Like that's the quickest way I would say it. If that's true, not even sure how Xbox will compete with that. If it's not true, I think they'll perform the same then. Except one will load faster. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see in a few months.
We will
how
see.
True the claim is.
With all due respect, this is from Benevolent24. My 8K VR Pixamet Pimax has screen door. Well, it's not real 8K. It's 4K per eye. So I guess we want 5K per eye then.
The best I've seen personally is PlayStation VR, so I really don't know. Yeah, I can't speak to that at all.
I've seen better than PSVR.
Have you seen? I've seen
this.
Oh yeah, I guess I've seen that.
Which looks better.
Have you seen what does he have? The HTC.
Oh no, I never use Nick's. We have a friend in Madison. I never used Nick's HTC. No.
Okay.
So I don't know. So yeah, if you can still see a screen door, I mean, eventually, I think 5K per eye is the way to go. If you're saying 4K per eye isn't good enough for you, then I don't know what to say, man. I would say 8K per eye will be good enough.
And you probably have better eyes than most people.
Which is true. Some people can see higher frame rates than others, can distinguish higher frame rates. Yeah. It's worth saying our eyes don't see.
You don't see in frame rate, yeah.
Oh, God. I keep losing my space. Oh, fuck. It's not our fault, by the way. The way YouTube organizes comments, it gets real annoying. Dan Nagura says, I asked about 10 gigahertz because we did used to jump like that. Yeah, but we don't anymore. We've hit a scaling wall on silicon, and I think a couple of years ago there was a lot of hype about graphene and these other features. I don't think so. I don't think we're going. Silicon is so cheap. And remember, I said this in one of my first videos, and I was apparently right, by the way. I learned from people at Hot Chips that my suspicion was this. The problem isn't graphene's not better. Graphene is better. But we're so good at silicon now that we would then have to go to graphene and get as good at graphene as we are at silicon to be twice as good. And so you're saying, are you really going to switch to an entirely new element for twice the performance? You know how much money that would take? Trillions in investments to get there.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look it up right now. I don't remember exactly, but
come here, Wendy.
Yeah, silicon. It's also just it's the second most abundant element on Earth. I couldn't. So we'll see. I mean, carbon's also pretty cheap, but our dogs are getting distracting.
Up, Reese, up. Come here, up. There's the Reese dog for those wondering.
But silicon is incredibly cheap, just like as a manufacturing,
And now the dogs will fight in the background for you.
It's just incredibly cheap, like as a raw material versus carbon. Carbon's also pretty damn cheap, I guess. So,
no, I don't see us scaling. I don't see us going off of silicon. Sorry about the dog distraction. I don't see us going off of silicon anytime soon. I think we will go to graphene in like 5 years, but I don't think it's going to be most things. I think it's going to be a slow transition. And I think you'll see 3D stacking where it's like, yeah, we did this core on graphene, but the rest is on silicon. That's what I think.
And I guess the other thing I would like look into is, and I haven't read about this at all, so I don't know, are like computer scientists, researchers, are they starting to, or hardware science PhDs, are they starting to develop graphene cores? And because I don't think,
in labs.
Yeah,
but it's like there's like zero IPC. There's way less transistors than what we have in anything we actually use.
And all I'm saying is, until you see decent cores coming out of those institutions, companies aren't going to start making those.
No. So yeah, I just don't see any jumps like that happening for a very long time. It's all about IPC efficiency, making things we can make now smaller and more efficient. Our dogs are being real idiots over there. Oh my God. We used to jump exponentially in frequency. Now we answered that question too. Let me keep scrolling. Do you think the PS5 and XSX, that's what Cortex calls it, the XSX. Do you think the PS5 and the Sex box will run faster on a 1080p screen versus... No, they're just going to run the games 60 hertz. I think all next-gen games... Well, I can't say that. I think most next-gen games will be 60 hertz. If it's in 30 hertz, you won't care because it'll be a game where it doesn't matter. And I think that's that. I think 60 hertz is the standard, and I think they'll be built around 4K. I think some games will come with an 8K option, and I think some games will come with a 120 hertz 4K option, but I think those will be rare. And I think that's that, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't think you're gonna have some 1080p higher performance option.
We'll see. I mean, I guess I don't know how much people like that option.
Xbox said they support 1440p, but it's like they're just gonna downscale 4K.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, given how much how prevalent the premium versions of the PS4 and Xbox One are now, like I'm
like
curious
when the Pro versions come.
Yeah, I'm curious if people.
I think the Pro versions will be pretty much capable of photorealism.
Well, I'm curious if a lot of people have just become accustomed to having like a performance or what's the other or resolution mode. And maybe they'll have that still. I don't know.
As standard. I hope not. I don't want a. That's a good point though. It'd be interesting. You're right. If what they do is 4K 60 is the standard of all games next gen, but then they have two more options: 8K 30 for those that just want a big Samsung TV, and then they have 4K 120 for the LG nerd, or like 1440p 120. Right, because I think that they might consider that for some games. It would not surprise me if they were like 1440p or even half 4K, because a lot of PlayStation 4 games, PlayStation 4 Pro games run half 4K. I think it's like 30. What is it, like 3840 by 1080 or something times, and then they just upscale it to 4K. So it's basically half 4K. With like rectangular pixels or whatever they do. Like, I think they might do that. I could see a half 4K 120 hertz mode, a 4K 60 mode, and then an 8K 30 mode. That'd be hilarious. That'd be cool too. Like, there's some games like Death Stranding where maybe just put it in 8K. I don't care.
I mean, yeah, well,
no, I'd probably take 60 hertz. I like the smoothness. Our dogs are fighting in the background still.
They're fighting before our scheduled dog fighting ring has started, which is pissing me off.
But. Yeah, usually they're supposed to fight each other to the death in about an hour. I might just turn this just a little bit so they can see the dogs fighting in the background. And then move this just a bit lower. Let's give them a dog cam. We'll do that while we're talking. So JD Gamer writes in and he says, with the main advantage of the PS5 being the SSD, wouldn't it be easier for Microsoft to just upgrade the SSD to 4 gigabytes and use their they don't have superior compression? That's bullshit. So first of all, they don't have superior compression, and that's another Xbox fanboy thing I keep hearing. I'm not calling you a fanboy, but people are saying it, and no developer is saying the compression's better. In fact, they're saying the compression's worse. But Microsoft's way better at marketing this. I'll say that much. And
upping to 4K. I mean, you would want them to up it to what? At least 7 gigabytes.
I think Adored said the Xbox might only have Gen 3 support.
So yeah,
I don't think that's true though. That'd be insane. I think they have Gen 4 support.
I mean, we'll see. But to get that same level of that same speed as the SSD, you would want at least a 7 gigabyte per second Gen 4 NVMe, right? Or
yeah, and you guys got to understand, the PlayStation 5 controller is 12 channel. The Xbox One is 8 channel. Making it faster doesn't make it equal. The PlayStation has a dedicated I/O controller and dual host. It's meant to use this SSD as high bandwidth cache memory. And there's nothing the Xbox is going to do with more speed that will make it as easy to send as much data at once. There's just no way around that. You can make it as fast as you want. It's not how the Xbox is built like a gaming PC, a really fast one for now. The PlayStation is built in an entirely different way, and we're just going to have to see if it works. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where this comes from. Why doesn't Xbox just do this? And it's like, well, they can't just add more money to the cost of the console.
Yeah, they're differently designed.
Yeah, they're different consoles, guys. Just like, why doesn't Sony just add 16 cores? Because they're not going to. I don't know.
Yeah, and they both need to hit a price point that is going to be very important this year because we're likely in a recession. So both of them are, I'm pretty sure, cutting costs on certain things. Or they can't just throw more money at the problem.
Oh, wow. Good job, Tom.
Wow, that's awesome.
Good job, Tom. All right, here we go, Dan. We're going to try to fix it. And then I slowly back away and it focuses.
Nice.
There we go. Let me try to fix this more. Sorry, guys. Hey, this is like Ethan says, it's an hour and 40 minutes in. No one else is watching anyways. Actually, 500 people are still watching.
489 people are watching.
But yeah, I think I answered that question. It's like, why doesn't Xbox just do this? That's not how their console's built. Why doesn't Sony just do this? That's not how their console's built. They both built their console in entirely different ways. And that's something I guess I'll say too, is I think the big misconception with this generation is that they're the same, but one is bigger numbers, and they're not. They're not the same. Last gen, they were the same. They both had hard drives. They both had teraflop. They both had the same architecture. Sony had more asynchronous compute units, I guess, but I don't know. I guess there was some secret sauce last gen too. But like it's like this gen, even though they're the same base architectures, they are fundamentally organized in different ways.
Yeah.
Like, and so there's a lot of things you can do with the same building blocks organized in a different way than I think people realize.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's hard to say without having seen anything, but it's like we know some devs are saying the PS5 is a superior console to develop on. So
yeah, and that I guess that's another thing to hammer too, is no one says the PlayStation's harder to program. No one, and I think people are trying to make the comparison that the PlayStation 5 is special like the PS3, but no one will support. No, that's not. The problem with the PS3 was Sony did all of these customizations no one asked for. Like that's why the PlayStation 3 had so many problems. It doesn't matter if it was fundamentally stronger. They did things devs didn't want. Right.
Yeah.
And this time they did things devs did want. And so we're going to have to see how well it works. But it's not, no dev says they're not going to program for the special things in the PlayStation. I guess that's what I'll say. Like DICE is going to. I'll confirm DICE said they will. So, say whatever you guys want about third-party games, but the third-party games are going to use the PlayStation 5 to its best ability. And we're just going to have to see if it's all a bunch of bullshit or not.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it is, but I don't know. I understand when people say don't listen to Sony first-party devs. I would say, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't think they're lying. But
they're the best at developing for Sony consoles, so I bet.
Oh yeah, I'm sure their games will look great, but it's like in terms of third-party opinions on the PlayStation, I would say you'd want to go to third-party devs. Yeah. And all of my sources were third-party devs. I wish I was friends with Neil Druckmann, but I'm not. Or Herman Hulst. Let me keep going down here. It does not make sense. What's better, hard drives or Xbox? Well, I mean, hard drives, first of all. But, would you rather have a faster graphics card and an SSD or a hard drive? But, I mean, that's the difference in storage we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, it's like, it doesn't make that. And again, I think when people say what I'm saying doesn't make sense, it's like, no, it's you don't get it. You don't get it. You don't get it. It's not just a solid state drive. Every developer, the first question I asked them was, is it about loading times? To a man and woman, they said no. None of it's about loading times. It's not about the loading times. It's about, first of all, there aren't loading times anymore. It's not, it takes 10 seconds, 5 seconds instead of 10. It doesn't load. You're just in the game. Second of all, there are entire things you can do differently when you don't have that latency. Right.
Yeah.
Like it's not about the load times, guys, but we're just going to have to see if it works. And we don't know if it will because they haven't shown any games. So again, it's not about loading times. Sorry. I don't know why people don't get that that's the point, though, that it's not about loading times. Where Dame Pletvaric writes in, where do you see VR in 10 years? I mean,
I see it as a
photorealistic and ubiquitous.
I don't know if I see it as ubiquitous.
Not everyone even has a console, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it as ubiquitous as consoles, but I think a lot of people will be using it. I still think the standard.
I think everyone will have some kind of cheap VR device. Like if you were going to go buy a new house, you'd put on a VR device and walk around the house without going there.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is I still think the standard for most games is going to be on a monitor, but
yeah, I don't know. I think so too. I like sitting on a couch or, in this nice chair here and playing games. I don't know that I always want to put on a VR device.
I
could be wrong. Maybe the Generation Z, that's all they want. But I don't think that's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever want. It's not that I don't ever. I don't always want to be fully immersed when I'm playing a game. So
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you're right. I don't always want to be fully immersed. Sometimes I just put on mountain. Like, I don't see why I'd need to be in VR first. So like for The Last of Us, I probably want to play that in VR, even if it would scare the shit out of me. But like Mountain Blade Warband, why do I need to use VR? Like, I want to kind of sit back. I tend to put on podcasts while I'm playing Mountain Blade.
yeah. And the other problem with VR is some mechanism needs to be put in place to make moving more fluid than it is right now.
Which I think in 10 years it will be there.
Yeah, probably. Maybe we'll have those weird frictionless like omnidirectional treadmill things. But
yeah, but I guess I think VR will be ubiquitous in 10 years. I do not think every game will use it, but when people say VR, when you say VR, I'm not thinking of gaming. I'm thinking of VR. And I think VR, I think it's going to be, I think everyone will have, not everyone, I think most people will have 3D printers. I think most people will have VR. And I think there's just going to be a lot of things where it's like, here, let me check out this thing. Yep, I'll print that from Amazon. I think there's going to be a lot of that. It sounds so science fiction, but I just think it's common sense. Like, if I need a new cup, I want to print it.
Maybe, I mean, but
we need way better 3D printers.
And I think to actually have it be
or 3D milling devices too. That's another thing to think about.
Yeah, I guess that's true. The only problem I see is with 3D milling devices, we already have those. It's just,
they're just expensive insane.
As shit. Yeah, they're really expensive. I don't know. I guess we'll see. The problem with like 3D printing is you can only use one material, and that one material is cheap plastic. So maybe people just have cheap plastic printer things, but you need to have better materials for it to take over more.
I like this question. Let me write that down as a timestamp. Let's see. DDR DD Mega Doodoo versus GDR. So I like this question. Dan Nagura says, difference between DDR and GDR. Why not use GDR? Like, why not always just use GDR5 or GDR6? Which there are PCs that just have GDR5. They're insanely rare, but there is a Chinese console that boots into full Windows 10, and it has only 8 gigabytes of GDR5. So it works. The people that say GDR RAM is bad for, system operations, it's not. It's faster speed makes up for the less latency, generally speaking.
You mean for the worst latency?
Yeah, the worst latency. However, I think the way I'm going to answer this question is in a practical way, right? I'm not going to give a scientific answer, but my understanding of DDR and GDR is this. Now, there are some architectures that do way better with lower latency, so let's put that aside. But let's just say GDR6 versus DDR4 is basically always better, bar some specific applications. For the most part, it is better. The faster speed makes up for the slower timings, but it's more expensive, like a lot more expensive. And so using DDR memory it's not necessary to have GDR6, and there's other differences as well. I know that.
Well, like, and how much does it basically cost for like 2 gigabytes of GDR6? Like,
it depends on the speed, right?
Yeah,
but you would want really fast GDR6 to be used as system memory, ideally. And I don't know. I think let's just call it $8. So $16 for 2 gigabytes. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I think it might be down to $7, $6, maybe in insanely bulk deals, $5. Even at $5, $10 for 2 gigabytes. So yeah, it's still more expensive than DDR4.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know technically too much about it really. So,
but that's my understanding of DDR versus GDR. Is GDR is generally better, but at doing the operations a CPU does, DDR is as good and sometimes better, and it's a lot cheaper. So that's why. Now, if you had an APU, you definitely wish it had GDR6, but most people, don't have powerful APUs. We're just not there yet. And DDR4 is getting fast enough, right? DDR5 should start at 5,000 megahertz, I believe.
So that's it. GDDR5 speeds.
That's much. GDDR5 speeds. Fast DDR5 will be capable of getting to fast GDDR5 speeds. And that's when you're going to get APUs, as strong as Vega, Vega 56. Like we will get that in a few years, I think. And that's what's going to require to get there. But I wish it was faster.
Yeah.
Now, but it isn't. Most people don't need APUs that powerful yet. But we're getting there. Let's see. Tom, it's your mom here. I'm pretty sure my mom is not Fancy Pants McVomit shirt. All right, let's see. We got one there. One there. I want to clarify that I'm not trolling. I developed software, not hardware. That's why I'm asking here. Also, I want to show my support as I'm asking. Well, again, thank you for the tip. We didn't think you were trolling. I thought it was a good question. Scroll down more. Roy Stolzer, drink have to support our brewers as essential infrastructure. Well, we're drinking sake, and this is so we're not really supporting the local. Although they're, they can use some help too right now. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not doing great either. But.
Yeah, in Japan. Well, we're gonna have to stop within 5 minutes, anyways, because I don't go over the 2-hour mark because YouTube freaks out, and how it takes hours to then save the video. I think we're done drinking for now. Yeah. Like another drink, then we'll go for another hour. Okay, so let's see the next question. What is my favorite Intel Lake? I think Tiger Lake. What happened to 2 versions at release? PS5 and PS5 Pro. I think they were considering that, but I think they realized it doesn't make any goddamn sense in a recession.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And also it's stupid. I think I do think they were both considering it, though.
I was personally always a little skeptical, especially of them, because it always seemed a little odd to me that especially with the PS5, that they would release 2 SKUs that were so close. If they would have
launched a $600 32 gigabyte 72 compute unit, I guess, and then they just keep making it cheaper. But why? Just wait. It'll be better if you make a Pro later.
Yeah, and I don't think many people are going to want to be spending more than $400 on a console this year anyways.
Let's say that. Again, I really don't think either console is more than $500. And I think the PlayStation is likely $450 or lower.
I'll be disappointed if the PS5 is over $450. I'll say that.
I keep thinking $429 because I looked at my new bill of materials since they made price cuts. Some spec cuts. I really think the cost is about $430 to make. If they made it $429, they could market it, buy our console and a game for the price of their console.
We'll see. I think
I think $429 is an interesting number because I feel like it feels closer to $400 than $500.
Well, it is closer to $400 than $500.
Yeah, but I didn't say it was. It feels. I feel like if you go $450, it feels almost the same as $500. Am I wrong? I'm just trying to think of psychology here.
Marketing. What general wisdom is, people think the first number is the price, and then any number tacked on is just.
Yeah, I know.
But I don't think that's how people really see it at this point, because people put a lot of thought into.
People put more thought into what they buy now, I think. Yeah.
We'll see. The general wisdom is also that consoles generally launch at like
solid numbers.
Yeah, but
generally.
It's not a law.
So no, yeah. I don't know. I really think there's a chance they'll go for $399 to be aggressive.
Yeah, we'll see.
Now will be the time to do it.
I hope it's $399, and I think.
That answers the Pro question, though. I think they were both considering cheaper and more expensive versions, and they both said, I think Xbox. I know from a Sony source that Sony thought Xbox was going to have like a 24 or 22 gigabyte console, and they were going to sell for $600. And I think Xbox said, fuck that. We're just going to make one for $500. And then we don't need to make the Xbox stream. And I think PlayStation was considering launching a 54 compute unit, 550 PS5 Pro. And they said, why? Let's just beef up the base console and then launch.
Yeah.
I really think that is what happened. And I think they were probably always planning just one version, but they were really considering having another one. They both came, and it'd be funny if that is how it happened too. Like Xbox was considering a cheaper one, Sony was considering an expensive one, and they both said, "Who cares?" Tom, when are you gonna change your channel's name? It's hard to find, and I think you need a more unique name. My name's awesome. I love Moore's Law's Dad. I'm surprised no one took it. And you know what? The best way to find my channel is to subscribe. The people that say that they think the consoles will be expensive, I'm very outspoken that I don't think they're as expensive to make as people think they are. I think the Xbox is like at most 400, and it's like around $500 to make, and they're usually sold at losses anyways. And I think the PlayStation is less than 450 to make. I really do.
I mean, yeah, we'll see. I feel like
I could be wrong, but that's what I have.
I feel like I think it was that Bloomberg article came out that said the PS5 costs $470.
They're always off, though. They always overestimate. They always have. Like they said, the PS4 was, they're always off, though.
I feel like everyone from that point forward like assumed that they all cost $470 to make, and also that for some reason Sony wouldn't sell it at a loss, which we know isn't true based on prior data. They pretty much always sell at a loss.
Yeah, on my bill of materials Excel spreadsheet, I like put prior, like the 80 gigabyte fat PlayStation 5 was sold at 40 gigabyte. The 40 gigabyte PS3 that was $400, that was sold at a 20% loss. They're not afraid for 20% losses. That makes $399 right common sense. And I think the PlayStation 4 was like a 5% loss. So I really think 400's in the cards.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll see, though. You know. I'm not sure what that guy's saying. So I think we've gotten through all the questions. We're almost to 2 hours, and I think this is the perfect time to stop. Why is Sony so quiet about backwards compatibility? Because they're stupid. I don't know why. Okay. Honestly, me and Dan have done digging on the backwards compatibility thing for the PlayStation, and it seems like it will just run all PS4 games. And when they said the top 100, they were only talking about the top 100 will be remastered in 4K or upscaled, should I say? I don't know. Whatever you call it.
I wouldn't say remastered is probably
the top 100 will run at higher frame rates in 4K. And Sony's marketing is, I don't know why Sony's stupid. Okay, I don't know why they're so terrible at this launch. I don't know why my camera just got blurry. Probably because I'm moving my hands too much like this. All right, Dan, I think it's time we stop.
Alrighty.
Well, Terry says I'm not buying the PS5 for backwards compatibility. I kind of disagree. I want backwards compatibility. If it didn't have it, I would not get it at launch. I don't know.
I mean, I hope it has PS3 backwards compatibility, but it looks like it really might not, which is pretty unfortunate, I would say.
Can we do a live broken silicon sometime? Is that what this is? Dan's staying here, and we're in a bunker. We don't know when Dan will be allowed to go back to the Northeast, so there's a chance there'll be another one. We'll see. I don't know. And yeah, no fanboys. I'm tired of people calling me a fanboy for analyzing data accurately. But anyways, guys, we got to stop. Nope. It's under 2 hours. Again, there will be a new Broken Silicon next week. So send your reader mail and you'll get another one of the Tom and Dan Jam Fests 2020.
Hell yeah.
Jam Fest 2020 Quarantine We're Fucked Edition. All right, guys. Have a good weekend.